In the previous two slides, we have talked to upper management to hear the corporate philosophy from the upper management perspective, and we have talked to the middle management and compared and contrasted what upper management says they're doing versus what the day-to-day staff is actually doing. When we get to this point, now we can start actually comparing notes and going forward. And what we want to do is we want to compare the management issues that they and upper management told us with as far as their wish list or their corporate areas of concern versus what the field people are telling me are their areas of concern. As we talk about perspective a lot of times, the Rubik's Cube that I use for an example is a very important deal because perspective has a lot to do with it. Management will look at an issue from the top down at it and see it as an admin or a process issue can be easily remedied with just a wave of the hand and a creating of a new spreadsheet, checklist, process. Field people will look at it and say, okay, I see what you're wanting to do, but it doesn't apply to us or it doesn't work because we've got to do this. And as we go through this, you will see that I'll talk about talking to all levels for this very reason. So once we get to tying and contrasting the pieces, then we'll go into further with it. We want to see is what upper management's seeing and concerned about the same thing that the middle management is seeing and concerned. Once I get a list of what I'm going with, the next step I'm going to do is go to the employees. This little spreadsheet, I do it on a one-page, I do it as a Word document. This tells me more about most businesses than I could learn in hours and hours of doing meetings with management. And what I do is I sit down the employees in a meeting room and I say, look, this is your chance to tell me what you see from your perspective. And it's a very basic list. The first thing I'll have on there, and I want them to do, is I want their employee, I want their name, so I know if there's something on that list that catches my interest, I can go ask questions. If you have customer or employees who are timid, the name can be optional. And I always tell them if you don't feel comfortable putting your name on it, that's okay, because I'm more interested in what the job title is, and then the date just tells me which set of surveys this is. Job titles, this will come into play very soon as we start separating the data. And I ask 5 very simple questions. The first question is, what are the 3 things we do best as a company? Simple. What do we do right? The second question is, what 3 things do we need to improve on as a company? We'll come back to this as we go into more analytical data sorting as we go on, but I want to hear what the people in the field, the people who are answering the phones, the salespeople who are in front of the customer, I want to know what they think we need to improve on as a company. The next 2 questions are, what 3 things do you do best as an employee? And what 3 things do you need to improve on as an employee? This is a tricky situation because the first time I do this in a company, if there's a toxic work environment, I'm going to get BS answers. What's the 3 things we do? We provide for the customer. We go above, and you'll get answers that are politically correct beauty pageant answers of world peace and solving no war. And sometimes it takes 2 to 3 of these surveys before you get to the truth. The same thing about the 3 things you need to improve on as an employee. If you have a toxic company, an employee is not going to be honest and tell you, hey, I'm really not that good at troubleshooting this piece of equipment, or I'm really not that good at doing this item out of fear of either retribution, fear of being fired, fear of being punished. A lot of times as a consultant, I can go in and tell them, look, these forms stay with me. The upper management will not see them, and I can get past it on the first survey. Sometimes I can't. If you're a manager in the company and you do this step, they're going to test you the first time to see how you react. So, questions 3 and 4, you're going to have to weigh based on the situation of the company you're doing it for. So, I want to put an asterisk beside both of those to take in the company situation. And then the last question I ask is there something that we need to know about that we didn't ask? Is there something we can do to improve profitability, to improve customer service? Is there something we're doing that makes absolutely no sense to you, and you just want to say, hey, why do we do it? That question is gold, and you need to follow through with it. Now, when we go into analyzing the data, and I can do an hour on this very easily, I'm going to keep it very short because I want to put these in bite-sized pieces on YouTube. What we're going to do is we're going to separate each group and subgroup as applicable. So I'm going to have, for example, if I have installers and construction, I may separate out by HVAC installation, electrical installation, plumbing installation. I'm going to separate out service department, retrofit. I want to do it, and then I'm going to separate out dispatch, accounting. I want to do everything on it. I also want to separate the managers from the field people as well. And we're going to go through, and the first time you do this in a company, ideally you're going to get a very similar list of the top 3 items across the board. When you go into a new company, I do this the first time, the big blaring problem is going to pop up on the list. Because you may have every technician you have and every installer tell you, we've got a major problem with code compliance or with employee training, or we're working way too many hours, we're all dropping dead, or whatever the proper thing that comes out of it. The other thing I want to do is I want to see if what my managers are seeing as the problems match what the guys in the fields are seeing as a problem. You would be amazed how many times you can look at upper management, middle management, and field employees and think you're looking at 3 different companies because they are nowhere close to being what the other ones are seeing. So we want to separate and see who is seeing what they think is the problem, and then we'll start addressing it. I will end this section at this point, and we'll continue on in the next section.